We're on the final section of Psalm 119, and verse 169 starts, "May my cry come before you, Lord." In fact, every verse in this is a prayer except for verse 174. It's a prayer to God. And the focus is on God's amazing ability to meet our needs at every turn as we trust him. And the psalmist's source is clearly in God. It talks about your word and your promise. It talks about your hand, your salvation, your laws that sustain me, your servant. So as we look at this, we see first of all that we need your word. We need your promise. We need your decrees in those first few verses. We never outgrow our need for God's word. It's manna from heaven. It's food for each day. It may be something new to learn, or it could be an old truth with a fresh application. The psalmist wants fresh understanding in verse 169 and deliverance because he knows that it's the truth that sets us free, as Jesus put it to his disciples in John 8:32. And out of that, his lips overflowed with praise. I need your hand, he says in verse 173. Psalm 139 talks of God's metaphorical hands, hemming us in front and behind in a protective way. His hand, God's hand, being laid upon us in blessing. He says, I need your salvation, verse 174. He needed God to come through against his enemies in this case. But salvation can mean freedom from anxiety or healing and wholeness from sickness. It can mean the provision of money to pay a bill or deliverance from enemy oppression. And our ultimate salvation will be when Jesus returns to make all things right again. Then in verse 175, I need your sustenance. I need you to sustain me. I need you to help me get through this. Let me live that I may praise you, and may your laws sustain me. And then verse 176, I am your servant. I have not forgotten your commands. But he is feeling isolated. He is feeling on his own like a lost sheep and needing God's intervention. And his confidence is that God will seek him. James writes in his book, chapter 4, verse 8, that as we come near to God, he will come near to you. We started Psalm 119 22 days ago, and we saw in verse 1 that it is a blessing. And as we finish, be blessed. And I hope you have been.